everyone, and welcome back. I hope you had chance to connect with some cool people during the networking. And here I am with Kathryn Thornton, former NASA astronaut, chair and board of directors at Space Foundation, and professor emeritus at University of Virginia. Selected by NASA in May 1984, Thornton is a veteran of 4 space flights. She has logged over 975 hours in space, including more than 21 hours of extravehicular activity. Was inducted into the U.S. Astronaut Hall of Fame in 2010. While serving as an astronaut, Thornton was also the head of NASA Johnson Space Center Education working group, which coordinates the educational outreach activities from astronauts and professional educators working under the Teaching from Space contract with Oklahoma State University. Videos, printed materials, and live events with school children and astronauts in orbit were some of the products of the group. Prior to becoming an astronaut, Thornton was employed as a physician at the U.S. Army Foreign Science and Technology Center. Hi, Kathryn, and welcome.
Good morning.
I'm super excited about your keynote that I even couldn't read normally about. Super excited to have you with us. And you have some slides, right?
No, I'm just.
No, you can do it without slides masterfully.
Then I understand we'll have some questions, and I'm always.
Yes, we'll have some questions at the end. So please, everyone, welcome Kathryn. And whenever you hear something that resonates with you, do let us know in the chat and prepare your questions, and I will be back for the Q&A part. And I will leave the stage to you.
Okay, so you're getting my camera, but not my screen. Is that correct?
Yeah, okay, we can see you. We can see you.
That's what I want.
And hear you very well. Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Well, it is morning where I am here, but as the Women Tech Network spans the globe with more than 100,000 members in 181 countries, the sun never sets on the Women Tech Network. I'm honored to join you today in celebrating dozens of outstanding women at this awards presentation. Leave it to Women in Technology to organize a successful event for 40,000 participants from all over the world during a global pandemic. A big well done to all the organizers. And also a hearty congratulations to the finalists and the winners today of 22 awards who will be announced throughout the day. I'm particularly excited for the young women in the network because you are our future. I'm an old timer in the STEM world, what in other company might be called a graybeard. However, due to genetics, I have no beard, sort of. And thanks to a wonderful hairdresser, I have no gray hair. But I do have memories of a different time. Most of us are evolutionary thinkers. We imagine evolutionary improvements in technology. Airplanes get bigger and faster. Automobiles get more efficient. New powerful antibiotics are developed. But how many of us can envision truly revolutionary discoveries and inventions that really change the world? Not many of us can do that. Some of the world-changing developments that come to mind from my lifetime are the space industry, proliferation of digital computers, medical imaging, and the internet. Most of you can't imagine a life without those things, but it did exist. In my household, I would also say the microwave oven is a pretty big deal, but maybe that's just me. So how did teachers in the 1950s prepare us for our future lives in 2020? How can we teach children today all they need to know throughout their lifetimes? Quite simply, we can't. We can and must give them the tools to invent their future and to adapt to changing environments. That's what we do. We continue to learn and to adapt. It'll be an interesting mental exercise during one of your breaks to list 5 things that you now know or things that you now know how to do that you didn't know a year ago. I think we discovered that we've all been learning and adapting quite a lot lately. The space industry and I were born about the same time. Who would have guessed that I would ride the wave of that world-changing technology throughout my career to this day? I had no idea when I was a child that I would one day fly on the space shuttle. It would have seemed very unlikely at that time that there would ever even be a space shuttle, and I would have been among the most unlikely of crew members. I'm sure that many of you very accomplished women have a plan for your career, and maybe you've been on a defined track from a very young age. My career and path through life have been more of a random walk. I never dreamed of becoming an astronaut because there were very few astronauts at that time. They were all military men and test pilots, and I clearly was not going to fit either of those qualifications. I was an unremarkable student through most of my early education until high school, when it just sort of clicked with me. One teacher in my high school who taught chemistry and physics had a very significant influence in my life. He made it clear to me, the only girl in my physics class, that his expectations for me were the same as for the guys. He wasn't a mentor in the sense that he pointed me in the right direction or showed me the way. He merely believed that I was capable. That sounds like a very small thing, but at that time, the message was clear that girls didn't do physics. If girls went to college, it was to find a suitable husband, and failing that, they could be teachers or nurses until they finally found a guy. Physics, no way. Looking back, I realized how the smallest encouragement can give young people a chance and have a tremendous influence on their lives. I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. In fact, I'm still working on that. I knew that I liked math and science when I went to college, but not specifically what I wanted to do with it. But if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. First, I learned that math was interesting as long as I could envision a practical use, but proving mathematical theorems was just not my thing. In chemistry, I learned you have to wash dishes and pay for what you break, and that left physics. I liked physics because it was a puzzle. The solution to a physics problem could be immediately obvious, or it could take days to see. I wasn't sure what one could do with a physics bachelor's degree, so I went on to graduate school and eventually earned a PhD. I enjoyed being a student, and I was good at it. But unfortunately, you have to grow up and graduate. I had a postdoctoral appointment at the Max Planck Institute for Nuclear Physics in Heidelberg, Germany for a year, and then came back and worked for the US Army as a physicist. After a few years, I saw an announcement that NASA was selecting its next astronaut class, and I was surprised to see that the requirements were just normal, healthy people with a bachelor's degree in science, math, engineering, or medicine. This was the selection for the 10th astronaut class and just the 3rd class to include women and minorities. This was about the time that Sally Ride became the first American woman in space in 1983. So I applied. For me, it was like buying a lottery ticket. I never expected to be selected, but until they said no, the dream was alive, and it was a very engaging fantasy to live. Surprisingly, NASA said yes, and I was selected to be in the 10th class of NASA astronauts who reported to the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas in July of 1984. By that time, I had acquired a husband who didn't want to move and a 2-year-old daughter. By mutual agreement, my daughter and I moved to Houston, and I joined NASA. Happy to say that my husband and I celebrated our 41st anniversary this year. 2 career families are not easy, but then nothing is. As for every working parent, life was hectic. We were given our schedules on Friday for the following week, and I began to make arrangements to get everything covered, including general childcare, swim team, softball practice, gymnastic classes, while I had early morning simulator sessions and days of travel away from home. I lived 1 week at a time. Every time I felt like I had my life almost under control, we decided, again by mutual agreement, to have another child. By the time I left NASA in 1996, we had 3 daughters. I had 12 years with NASA and 4 great space shuttle flights. My flights included a classified mission that I can't talk about, and the first Hubble Space Telescope service mission that was televised all over the world. I had the opportunity to deploy satellites in space, to repair satellites, to do spacewalks and science experiments in an orbiting laboratory. One of the most poignant connections between my NASA life and my family life was the Hubble mission. My oldest daughter was 11 years old when I flew on the first Hubble service mission, and then later earned her PhD in astrophysics using data from the Hubble. I can't take credit for her PhD, but I'm happy to have helped a little bit. I love my time at NASA, but after 12 years, I decided to leave that world behind and to have more time with my family and to have an opportunity to influence the next generation. I joined the faculty at the University of Virginia. It's very rewarding to work with university students, and even though I'm now retired, I continue to follow their careers. We see excellent students at the University of Virginia, And I know that most of them will do well in their careers with or without any help from me. But the ones who steal a piece of my heart are the ones who struggle a bit. The ones where just a little bit of encouragement can make all the difference. Because I was one of them many years ago. I was born at the same time as the space industry, which has now grown to be a $430 billion business. The fuel that enabled growth of the space economy from nothing to almost a $500 billion segment of the global economy is people. It's the really smart students who don't need us, to the kids who need just a little bit of encouragement, to people who don't think they have any place at all in the space economy. We need them all. I've been privileged to be a member of the board of directors of the Space Foundation since 2010. The Space Foundation is a nonprofit leader in space awareness activities, educational programs, and major aerospace industry events. One of the initiatives of the Space Foundation of which we are most proud is the Center for Innovation and Education that creates and delivers workforce development and economic opportunity programs that enable all people to actively participate in the global space economy. Our goals for the center overlap with those for the Women Tech Network. Space Foundation Chief Operating Officer Shelley Brunswick, the driving force behind the Center for Innovation and Education, is a global ambassador and mentor for the Women Tech Network, as well as a finalist for the Diversity and Inclusion Officer of the Year Award. Lauren Smith, a fellow Space Foundation board member, is a finalist for Speaker of the Year Award. We're very proud of both of them, but I don't have my finger on the scale. I wish the best of luck to all the wonderful finalists. Thank you to the Women Tech Network for empowering women all over the world and for holding this wonderful event. It's been an honor to join you today. I would be happy to answer any questions, which is actually my favorite thing to do.
Wow, thank you very much, Kathryn. That was incredible. I was like, listening to your story and following how people were telling, hey, I see Kathryn Thornton in front of my screen. Oh my God. For some people, it's like really this moment when they can actually listen to you and interact with you right ahead. And as you said, the Q&A is the favorite part for you. And thanks a lot for the warm words about the job that we are doing at Women Tech Networks. It meant a lot to us to hear this from you. So here we have a lot of questions and a lot of comments. So I will start with this. Until they didn't say no, the dream was alive. This really resonated with me. There is a comment from Liliana, and this really resonated with me as well. And until you get the rejection that you actually don't fit, why don't you even try, right? That's what you did. Here we are. Curious about your experience as a former NASA astronaut. My son looks interested about the space. He watches videos on YouTube that told me about black hole, etc. So probably the question is how to encourage him, or what would be the next step as a mother?
I'm not sure what we're encouraging him to do to get into the space business.
To get into the space. Yes,
are not necessarily the same. Space business. There's lots. Excuse me. There's lots of ways to participate in that. Being an astronaut is just one of them. But the industry is enormous. It includes all the commercial side, our international cooperation, government space, and that sort of thing. Excuse me. I think. I have 4 grandsons, and so I think you just encourage their interest with talking to them, asking them questions, letting them visualize where they want to be, and then, in school, that you have to do well in school to do that. So that's sort of an encouragement to keep pressing on. And it doesn't, I used to say, well, you need to study math, science, engineering, whatever, but that's not true because there's place for people with all kinds of interest in the space industry.
Yeah, absolutely. How was your experience? Here's a question from Rashmawati. She's asking, how was your experience when you landed the space for the first time?
The space?
Yeah.
We did so much training leading up to that it was almost like, for me, kind of an out-of-body experience. Like I was watching myself going through all the motions of going out to the launch tower, climbing in the space shuttle, strapping in. So it wasn't like I was worried and scared and because you've made the decision, you're going to do it. Nobody backs out at that point. So the decision is made. You just go through with it and see what happens. The training is really good, and so most of it is most of the sensations you kind of expect. At launch time, there's a lot of vibration, and I'm talking shuttle world, which now doesn't exist. So I'm a dinosaur. But in the first stage, there's a lot of vibrations. I mean, literally like this. And I remember hearing some of my colleagues, pilots, saying, I trained for years to read the engine gauges to see how the engines were performing, and I can't see them.
Oh my God.
Bouncing around a bunch. And that went on for a couple minutes, and then the solid rocket booster separated, and we were riding on the main engines on the shuttle. And that was very, very smooth, like an electric car ride. And that went on for another 6.5 minutes. The acceleration built up to about 3 Gs. So you feel like you have a gorilla sitting on your chest toward the end of the ascent. But when the main engines cut off, it was like everything went from being crushed to floating. It's just like in one instant. It was a magical moment.
Crazy.
So I don't know what the acceleration profile is for these new capsules for Soyuz or for SpaceX. I think it's probably higher Gs than we experienced in the shuttle.
Yeah,
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Here is another question from Neha. She's asking, what were your thoughts, worries about family, or maybe some other worries that you had when you traveled for the first time? I mean, I'm sure you must be excited, so your family, but what were your feelings?
The hardest part of launching is saying goodbye to your family, without a doubt. We were, for health reasons, separated from our kids for a week before flight. So we didn't catch any kid germs in the last week. So, that part was hard. And kind of your last contact with them is typically the night before launch. You can call them on phone, talk to them, and that sort of thing. And after that, for me, it was just flip a switch. I have a job to do. I just have to do it. I'm pretty sure things are going to turn out okay, but I can't know.
Yeah, interesting. Was there something that you were scared of when you were out there in space?
I don't think that I was scared, because I trusted that we knew how to take care of anything that we could take care of, and everything else was beyond our control. And there's no point worrying about it if you can't do anything about it. So, I assumed when I launched, I assumed I was coming home. There's no question. I did. I knew there was a possibility I wouldn't, but my operating assumption was I'll be back next week.
And you did get back, and you were here with us. How did you balance your career and family? Was it easy? Or no?
It is not easy for anyone to balance a career and family.
I agree.
That's just the way it is. I think you take care of what's the most important. And, if your floors need sweeping, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As a mother myself, I can confirm that it's not easy.
Yeah, it's never easy, but I think it's rewarding. I wouldn't have it.
Yeah, it is rewarding. It is rewarding, and you will see it with every positive moment that you encounter. Here's a question from Usha. How is it possible to help? How to pave the way out to space? Your suggestions and recommendations.
I'm not sure I understand that.
How to promote maybe women to get more in space.
Oh, get more people in space?
Yeah.
And
especially encourage women to get into space.
Yeah, that's, I would have said that, you have to do the math science route. You would study that in school in order to have the opportunity to fly with NASA or with the other space agencies around the world. But, we have a real revolution coming now, and that's commercial space flight. That's people, SpaceX, who's built their launch vehicle. It's not government owned. NASA buys seats from them right now, but other people can buy seats from them too. And so next year, this year we had 2 launches with SpaceX. So they launched people. NASA bought the seats like a ticket on an airline and flew to a NASA facility, which was the International Space Station. Next year, I hope it's next year, there will be the first truly commercial space flyers where it is not NASA paying for the seat. And they will go to the space station because there's nowhere else to go right now. But in coming years, there will be other destinations in space. So the other route for getting into space, besides studying math and science and getting selected by NASA or the other space agencies, is to make a lot of money and be able to buy your way up there. And I think that the price of that will come down. As the launch technology gets maybe less expensive because of reusability.
Right.
I think the cost of launching will go down. And so more people will have the opportunity to do it. It's not going to be like hopping on a bus ever. But, it will become more accessible to people.
Interesting. Here is a comment from Kim. She said, it's 1 a.m. in Sydney and I stayed up for Kathryn.
Oh, thank you.
So people are joining from all over the world, and since we run it across different time zones. We have more questions. Here is a question from Alma. Who was your role model? Who inspired you? Or did you have one?
People ask me that, and nothing really comes to mind. I mentioned the teacher who was encouraging to me, not necessarily the role model. I didn't want to follow in his footsteps. I think my mother, although she lived at a time where she didn't have the opportunities that I did. But I think had she been born in my time, she would have been something. She raised 6 kids, and
wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Here's a question from Jasleen. What was the most challenging and memorable NASA journey?
What was the most challenging part of joining NASA?
Yeah.
Is that the question? I am not a gifted or comfortable public speaker. And so, I thought as a physicist, I could just work a problem in my head and not tell anybody about it. But when I joined NASA, we got thrown into the public relations pool pretty quickly. And I had to go out and overcome that. Well, I don't know if you ever overcome it. I had to learn to adapt and compensate and do the things that I need to do to go out and spread the news. So I do it. But the questions are always the most fun.
Yeah. That's why we wanted to that's why the conference is live. So we have this interaction with people and that they can talk to you in real time. And I think that you did a great job with your keynote. I really enjoyed the funny moment that you shared. And it was like, not very, like you didn't expect people to laugh, but the smile, and we did. And that was really I really loved the authenticity of your talk. And I think that's what resonates with people the most. That's why they're sharing all these great comments. How did you manage, and what inspired you to choose that field? You partially shared, but maybe you can share more. And how maybe have you ever thought of giving up, your career that you started in space?
My career, well, I did give up the career I started in space. Not because I didn't love it. I loved every minute of it. But, I had 3 kids that were growing up, and I was gone a lot. I traveled a lot. And so, I had 4 great flights, and I thought I can stay here the rest of my career. I'll get maybe 2 or 3 more flights, which would be awesome. Or I can go somewhere else and have more time to, watch my kids grow up. So, it wasn't an easy, I would say it wasn't an easy decision. I don't know. It's a decision that I made willingly because it was it was my decision, as well as good for the kids. I don't say I gave everything up for the kids, because I didn't. I gave it up for me.
Yeah. In the end, you're the mother and you decide, and that's what you did. And that was the decision that you made. What was your dream back then, and maybe what is your dream now?
Wow.
That's a question from Alma.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I've never had a plan at all. I just sort of see what happens next. And I've advised a lot of students when I was a professor. And one of the things I tell them is, once you make a decision to go do something, don't ever look back, because you can't change it. If you find out you're somewhere you don't want to be, you don't like what you're doing, then do something else. Find another way, but don't ever second guess your decision. Don't ever look back. I also tell them that I think you need to spend 3 years on your first job. The first year, your head's just sort of spinning around in a circle. You're trying to figure out what's going on. Second year, I think, is often disillusionment. that this isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. And the third year, you kind of reach an equilibrium. And if at that point you're still unhappy, then you need to move on.
Yeah. So give yourself 3 years at a company. Well, unless it's really bad, right?
Well, if it's really terrible, then certainly you move on. Don't stay anywhere where you're absolutely miserable. But I think that there is a cycle to how we adapt.
Yeah. If you feel like good at a company and you may be tempted by some opportunities, but if it's great and you feel like this is a place to stay for 3 years and see what happens, right?
Yeah. But I think almost always in the second year, there's sort of this disillusionment period. And you don't want to give into that too quickly.
Right. Your piece of advice to people out there struggling to fulfill their dreams?
Keep at it.
I feel like you're, from the experience that you are sharing, you're a doer. You do, and you feel confident about it. Is that the case?
Confident? No, I don't. Well, maybe I project that. When I went to NASA, I didn't know anything about the whole business. I mean, I was pretty sure pointy end of the space shuttle went up, and that was about my limit of what I knew. But I sort of kept my eyes and ears open and my mouth shut for a little while. Right. And if I would hear something I didn't quite understand, then I would go off and figure it out. So I think continuous learning, you have to do that.
Right. Regardless of the age, right?
Yeah. I don't know what I'm going to do now. I retired almost 2 years ago. I spent the first year hiking the Appalachian Trail, which is a 2,200-mile footpath along the east coast of the United States from Georgia up to Maine. So that's what I did in 2019. 2020, I've been in this, COVID world.
Yeah, we all are.
I don't know what I'm going to do when I come out of this, but I'll find something.
Some of the plans that I personally made for 2020 and starting from March, like we had more than 50 events worldwide, planned to happen, and we had to cancel them in a heartbeat. So it's very unpredictable. And I liked what you said, see how things are developing and see where, where you can go, and just do it. Take the opportunity also, take the moment. How do you feel like, and be okay with your decision, whatever you make. Here's a question from Liliana. At some point, did you feel your time was limited and you couldn't do all that you wanted?
Every day. Especially when I had kids in the house. Every day. I mean, there's never enough time. Now, since I'm trapped at home in COVID, I'm not sure that's true. Although I have found that I used to say, well, I don't do this because I don't have time. I don't do this because I have time. Now I have all the time in the world and I still don't do it. So I don't know.
We're just humans, right? I mean, we cannot perfectly make the most of our time. We get tired, we get lazy, we make mistakes, and so on and so forth. So in the end, it's about celebrating our successes and not getting too upset about our failures, right?
Right.
Absolutely. And here are more questions upcoming and more comments are coming. I'm very impressed with having the chance to listen to you. Space is fascinated. How do you think we can solve the problems with the extended space debris? And
space debris, that's a good question. I don't know. I know that there are some people that are working on it. Very smart people, but I don't know specifically what their plans are. I heard some talks at the last space symposium that, well, we didn't have one in 2020, so it would have been 2019, about some concepts for dealing with space debris. But I think, right now, the best thing we do is just not create it, is make sure that anything that's sent up there, upper stages are vented so they don't pressurize and explode, and hope that there are no more collisions of space objects that are uncontrolled, so we can't avoid them.
Yeah. And here's one question from Jocelyn. What was the most memorable flight at NASA?
What's the most memorable flight? Well, that's interesting. It's kind of like, which is your favorite child? It kind of depends on the day.
Okay, what comes to your mind right now? Maybe something.
Well, the Hubble flight was memorable because it was so critical, and that we get it done right to save the Hubble Space Telescope. And but we really didn't have any problems. Things went off just like clockwork. On my previous flight, where we tried to capture a satellite and put a new booster motor on it, like everything that could go wrong did go wrong. We were ultimately successful, but we got it done. So that one, was exciting in that we weren't really sure what the outcome was going to be. My first mission was classified, so we couldn't talk about it, and our communications to the ground were not released to the public, to the whole world, so we could have a little bit more relaxed environment and conversations with the ground. And the last one was a science mission where we had in the cargo bay of the space shuttle, instead of satellite, we had a laboratory. Half the crew slept while the other half worked, so we kept it in operation 24 hours a day. So that's the first time I could imagine wanting to spend time on a space station, because we had a lot more volume to live in and half the people at a time to deal with, to interact with, as opposed to the other missions where all we had was the crew module of the space shuttle. So it was, I don't know, maybe twice the volume of a minivan to live in with 6 of your best friends for a week and a half. So anyway, they were all very different. I can't say that there was a favorite. They were just all very different.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, which is great. Absolutely. And it was great to have you, and you made our conference really memorable. Thank you very much, Kathryn. Thanks for your time. Thanks for everything you've done, how many women you have inspired in our audience, and will continue inspiring. Thank you very much. And we hope to see you at our events again. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Goodbye. And good luck on the rest of the conference.
Thank you. Thank you very much.